Dion, I need a answer to this question. If Kentucky plans to have the best front court in the country, who do you think they would be led by?
JQ.
What if I told you that's wrong?
Then I would say they don't have the best front court in the country.
Not according to Kentucky's assistant head coach. So this came out from a KSR piece. Oh, Jack Pilgrim over at KSR. Once again, shout out to Jack Pilgrim and KSR. The coverage they do for Kentucky, just the coverage they do for their team in general is impressive. I think other media members, other media people who cover their team could take a thing or two from how in depth I think they do it. But basically, he was talking to Kentucky's assistant coach, Mikel McLean. And he stated that Kentucky plans to have the best front court in the country with Brandon Garrison leading the charge. Now, Brandon Garrison, in year two transfer, former Burger Boy, from former McDonald's All-American, will be going to a second year with the program. 6'10", highly touted kid, a kid who, like, even back to when he went in the transfer portal the first time, I wanted Michigan State to call him. There was other programs calling him. He was very highly sought after, given the productive freshman year that he had at Oklahoma State. Didn't really have, I guess, the season you would think last year, up and down moments that happened. Even this summer, I feel like a lot of the stuff that we heard from Kentucky side has been like Brandon Garrison is still trying to put everything together, still trying to figure things out. Like, he has these moments where he flashes, and you're like, oh, okay, there's a 6'10" McDonald's All-American. Then you have other times where you're like, bench, Malachi Moreno. That's who I'd rather have out there. So I feel like it's been up and down, but um, Jack Pilgrim, like I said, had the interview with Mikel McClain, the assistant coach, and he gave all the credit to Brandon Garrison, who had an unbelievable summer, and said that he is the most important player in Kentucky's front court. Dion, I'll throw it to you for your thoughts before I get too deeper into this.
Yeah, I mean, important doesn't mean best. I could see important because JQ's hurt right now, so you can't bank on him. So like it's hard to say JQ's your most important player when he like you have no idea when he's gonna play necessarily, right? Um, and then Malachi Moreno's a freshman. Mo Diabate is kind of a front court player, like kind of like a three, depending on how you look at him. Um, so I could buy into that. Yelovich is a transfer in who's like struggled in practice so far, right? So I can see Brandon Garrison being the most important player.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, even in this article, Jack called JQ a generational talent, which, look, 6'10", almost 7 feet. I think he's grown this summer. Obviously worked on his body. Elite shot blocker, elite athlete, elite finisher. Now, I think there's some other things that need to come along until he gets to that point where he can be like, this elite center. But young kid, he was a reclass freshman so last year, so he'll be a very young sophomore this year. He has a chance to be really, really good. Throwing out the generational word with JQ is a little bit too far for my liking, even though I like JQ, but it's a player that I think has a lot of talent. And to your point, Brandon Garrison is important because I think of the other question marks with the front court, right? And it's not even questions that we didn't expect. Like, we knew that JQ was coming off of that injury. Reese Potter is a MAC transfer that's coming up. There's something there. He's a unicorn according to Seth Davis, but there's some other things that need to come along there. Yelovich has struggled a little bit. Mo Diabate is more undersized. He's going to be playing more probably three, it seems like, from what we're hearing with this team. Even if he does play the four, he's a little bit undersized in that regard. So there is such an importance on Brandon Garrison and on Malachi Moreno. And then to your point, to even add to that, with Brandon Garrison being important, you don't want to thrust all this stuff on Malachi Moreno as a true freshman, right? You want to hopefully give the keys, or not give the keys, but put a little bit more of the pressure onto the guy who's second year of the program. Obviously has, like, you're not a McDonald's All-American for no reason. Like, even, for me speaking on like a Xavier Booker, he's got some talent. You just got to find some people to put it together if it ever does come together. And Brandon Garrison has had moments that I can think to with Kentucky last year where he was, you saw the flashes, but at the same time, Mark Pope was bald. If he had hair, he also would have pulled it out last year sometimes watching Brandon Garrison play. I know I did, even as a person who's not really a Kentucky basketball fan. So um it's just it's the shock value though when you think about, like, isn't it fair to say also on the same terms that even on the things we just said, if Brandon Garrison is your most important front court player, doesn't that also mean that the front court questions are there?
Yeah. So like straight up, like without JQ, it's a bad front court. Well, bad's a strong word. My bad, Kentucky fans, but it's definitely not the best front court in the country.
It's just it's a scary one because you need like so many things to come along. Like if
Right.
Malachi Garrison don't come along and Yelovich isn't ready, then you're like without your most talented post player, front court player. That's a scary proposition.
Right. And you don't know what you're going to get out of Malachi. The early returns on Yelovich don't seem the most positive at the moment. And that's not me saying he's going to be like a bad player by any means. I think Yelovich is going to be good, but Yelovich got here late. Cincinnati Open, I'll never forget that after I was wrong about when he was going to be here. So that he got here late. He's struggling. I think it's going to take him time to kind of like transition. He'll probably be like fine by conference play, but when we're talking about November 11th at the Yum, as someone that's already mentally bet Kentucky, yeah, Brandon Garrison's probably like the most important front court player specifically for that game, right? Because it doesn't feel like JQ's going to play in it. It doesn't feel like um, Yelovich is going to be like the finished product that Yelovich will be on November 11th. Malachi is probably going to be transitioning still. Brandon Garrison is the most ready basketball player in this front court. So I definitely agree with the important part. I do think it's scary. It puts a lot of pressure on the guards and the wings. I think they have the deepest team in the country. I think they have some of the best guards and wings in the country too. So I think it's going to be okay. But when you think about the Yum and you think about L's up versus L's down, if you don't have their front court beat, boy, is Louisville a really hard team to play against. At least on paper. Like if you don't feel like you can dominate them in the paint in the front court, like going against Michael, McNeely, all them boys, like that's not the world you want to live in.
Dion, how's your job going?
Beginning of the school year, everything's like a little up and down. One of the biggest issues we've had is we can't find any uniforms for our girls' sports teams.
Mm, that's a difficult thing to find a solution for. I know damn well all about that because I got a daughter that just turned 2. She's into sports and she's already outgrowing every little piece of sports apparel she had. Thankfully, I know Clara Kate Creations. Clara Kate Creations was started by a former high school teacher who quit because it wasn't cost effective to send new twins and a 2-year-old to daycare. She found it easier to make girls' sports apparel than finding it to buy. And I am so thankful that she exists because if we have an old shirt of Murph's that she's outgrown, we can send it in and she takes that piece of apparel that means something and upcycles it into an outfit that Murphy can now wear as she grows up. She makes great stuff. It's honestly kind of like your fullback's wife, Kyle Juszczyk. Is that how you say it? She does that, but honestly, I think Clara Kate's coming for Mrs. Juszczyk's job.
I love that. I'm a big Juice guy, love his wife. Love Claire Kate even more than both of them, though.
You can send in your own custom ideas and she will come up with a design. She's just the best. Look up Clara Kate Creations on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and more.
Right. And even outside of that, because obviously that's important with the rivalry and everything going on with that. But, one of the things that makes me put Kentucky to such a like high standard or high spot, like in my preseason rankings and things like that, is that on a night to night basis, I think they could have the most talented wing player, Otega Oweh, who's going to be an All-American. And then also JQ has All-American potential in the front court. So basically you have the most talented guy on the court on the wing, the most talented guy on the court in the front court. That should, and he's surrounded with a bunch of other pieces and a good coach in Mark Pope. That's a good recipe for, number 9. They look at the banner, the assignment all the time. But it's just when you take a step back and, you're being honest with yourself. The best front court in the country led by Brandon Garrison.
Yeah.
Like with all due respect to Brandon Garrison, like unless he's ready to take this massive leap in year 2, which to be honest with you, I just feel like everything we've heard this summer, he's been so up and down that I was a little bit taken back that like, oh yeah, he's the guy in the front court. He's leading the front court. To which I kind of that's why I kind of came here and I was like, but I feel like he's been up and down all summer. We've been more focused on getting JQ back. I know I've heard more things about Malachi Moreno and what he's done with his body and how he can come along a little bit faster, but I don't know. Where do you think this is coming from all of a sudden that like Brandon Garrison is this leader?
I mean, I just think it's a realization of like JQ might not play right away. Like I feel like we all wanted JQ to play right away, and then now it's the realization he might not play right away. And it's also like, hey, Malachi Marino's 18 years old. Yelovich just got here. Like you kind of go down the list in the lead up to the season. Obviously, there is you err on the side of optimism, right? And I'm not saying like Brandon Garrison being the most important player is you erring on the side of negativity necessarily, but this was probably always the reality. And because of how optimistic everyone wanted to be about everything, myself included, specifically with JQ, I think we just convinced ourselves he would be JQ day one. And the reality is he tore his ACL like 6 months ago.
Right.
So it was never really realistic, and it was probably always going to go this way. And because it was always going to go this way, I would say Mark Pope and that coaching staff are definitely prepared for Brandon Garrison to be their most important player. So I don't think it's going to have a crazy, like, big effect because it's probably what they've been prepping for. I got a question for you, though. You said you want to call JQ generational, right? You
Mhm.
would caution on using that word.
Yeah.
You believe he's an All-American talent.
Yeah.
What pick would he have went in the draft if he was able to go this past year, in your opinion?
I think he for sure would have been first round, just given the potential portion of it. You know how NBA drafts work. Like a 7 foot young kid, shot blocker, finisher, who can, I think develop his game. I think he would have been a pretty high first round pick. It's just when you use the word generational, it's like to me, you gotta be able to do some other things, right? Like like a generational player doesn't shoot 50% from the free throw line or hasn't done so in a long time, unless you were like Shaq, right? Or, I just feel like in today's NBA to be generational, you got to do so many other things. And that's no disrespect to JQ because me not calling him generational is not even a slight to him. That's a lottery pick. It's
Right.
just I'm trying to lead the charge to making the G word great again. You know what I'm saying? Let's make generational mean something again. You know what I'm saying?
Make generational again.
Yeah, and honestly, given the way that the G is still part of that one phrase, I got to work on a new phrase, but like make generational great again. Like that's what needs to happen, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know. You just got to find a spot to, I think, find a little bit of balance in the front court. And to me, after even because I didn't even realize this until we did this video and we started talking about this. I now see this angle and exactly what this coach is doing. This and it's the correct move, by the way. This is big upping and instilling confidence in your front court in Brandon Garrison. Because obviously we don't know him, we don't know what it's like to coach him. And this is me just taking a guess right now. But even like emotionally and mentally, I do think that Brandon Garrison can get a little up and down on himself.
Yeah.
So like, and like I feel like the fan base in Kentucky in general can sometimes really harp on Brandon Garrison as like this piece that they expect more of. So to me, this is maybe so just like, big up in him a little bit, getting, instilling that confidence, saying you are that guy, even if it's true or not. Because they realize, to your point, JQ's probably not going to be as ready as they want him to be. So like you gotta instill that confidence in your own players.
Yeah. I think it's the right move by the coaching staff. Like I said, I do believe they've been prepping for this. Kentucky's too smart, too talented not to know what they're doing at all times.
Yeah, 100%. But uh we'll see what it looks like. Obviously we are massive fans of Kentucky with JQ being the guy, but it's looking like it's going to be somebody else, and that's a scary, scary thought when you have this generational talent, but your front court, the straw that stirs the drink, as Jack Pilgrim put it, is Brandon Garrison. I'd rather have a better straw. It's kind of where I come from on that. But shout out to Jack Pilgrim for this article. Also shout out to Mikael McLean. Oh, I think he's gonna be a future head coach. This is a good move by him mentally to big up his own team and players.